The following is an account of my time inside of the Wachusett Maximum Security Prison last Friday. The first part of this story is a transcript of an audio recording of my experience, while the second part is narrated posthumously due to the circumstances that you will soon understand. October 25th, 1:15 p.m. My name is Mike and I'm an 18-year-old high school senior, and I'm from Massachusetts. I'm currently looking at an overgrown, abandoned prison. Time to go inside, I suppose. A little background about me and my situation, I suppose. I've always been interested in urban exploration, mostly in the New England area. First, it was the small abandoned homes when I was 15, and then places like old nursing homes, stuff like that. I love the idea of seeing places that are like relics of a bygone era, even if they are decaying and usually structurally unsound. But that's just part of the risk. A few days ago, I was on a forum for urban exploration when I saw that there was a place near me that I had never heard of before. This came as a surprise, as I constantly scour the internet looking for new places to check out. This place was the old Wachusett Maximum Security Prison. According to the very few sources that I could find, it opened in the early 1920s and never really had an official shutdown date, but it was virtually abandoned by the 1970s. I couldn't find any real reason for shutting down, though one would have to assume that it was just an old prison that was replaced by another, more high-tech prisons in the state. At around noon today, I grabbed a flashlight, my pocket knife, some power bars, and I headed off towards the prison. It was about a 35-minute drive, which was actually the closest place that I'd seen in a while. Who would have thought? Anyways, I can see why nobody really goes here. The path is completely overgrown. I spent over an hour making my way from where I had parked to where the prison entrance actually was. When I emerged from the brush, the building laid before me. It was a massive structure, at least 16 acres or more. 1:23 p.m. I will now be recording this exploration in real time to be able to give constant updates. I'm about to head inside of the prison. Okay, there's an opening on the fence over there. I just gotta squeeze in. Okay, there, alright. I'm inside the outer fence. This place is a mess. Crumbling walls, broken glass, and trash all over the ground. Oh, okay, here's a door. It's locked. Alright, I'm gonna figure this one out. Give me a second. 1:27 p.m. There seems to be no easy way in. All the doors I can see are locked, and while the place is old, I just can't get through a prison door. 1:30 p.m. I ended up throwing a rock I found through a window, and it shattered like it was nothing. No wonder this prison was shut down, if a simple rock is all you need to get out. 1:35 p.m. Alright, I'm in. It's dark as hell in here. Right now it seems that I'm in the visitor section. Old phone booths where you could talk to inmates. There's a ton of decay all over the walls, and it appears as if the ceiling collapsed in one of the corners. Yeesh. 1:48 p.m. Okay, I found my way into the main part of the prison. There seems to be a cafeteria over here. But dang, this place is a mess. Sorry, let me rephrase that. It's even more of a mess than the rest of the place. Overturned tables, smashed chairs, and a crimson pool of a dried liquid. Blood. A smell of rust and death stings my nose with every breath that I take. I wondered if a riot had happened or something. I'm gonna go into the kitchen. 1:53 p.m. The kitchen seems to be in order. Mostly. There's some old boxes of food and stuff like that laying around. The food is all rotten, gross. Other than that though, it's pretty well preserved. 2:10 p.m. Wow, it's taken a while to get here. This building is massive. I'll look at some of the rooms on my way back, but there was an armory. I'd be shocked if there was any weaponry left, but an old gun would be the coolest trinket I've ever taken from an expedition. Anyways, I finally hit the holding cells. A lot of old metal bar cells and things like that. The cells are relatively small, but enough for 2 people, and there are bunk beds and a toilet. 2:18 p.m. One of the cells is open. I'm inside it now, and I can only imagine what it was like to be a prisoner here. It's a maximum security prison, so only the worst of the... Did you hear that? It sounded like banging. Anyways, only the worst of the worst ended up here. Actually, I wonder if there's solitary confinement cells here. I'll keep looking around. 2:24 p.m. I reached what I think is the showers. I'd better remember not to drop the soap. Man, this place has gone to hell. It's so dark that I'm afraid I'm gonna trip on something. Jesus, there's blood all over this corner. My God, I wonder what happened. 2:29 p.m. I'm on the 2nd floor of the main holding area now. It's kind of disturbing how dark it is. It seems like the prisoners had little to no light. Spooky. 2:31 p.m. This cell that I just found has a ton of carvings on the wall. Not uncommon, but it's concerning considering it has some sort of cultish chants on it. It's hard to see since the cell is locked, but it seems to say something about the doctor. That's actually written all over this guy's cell. I wonder if he had some sort of mental issue. 2:39 p.m. I noticed another cell with writings about the doctor. I wonder if there was some really cruel doctor here or something. Whoa! 7:42 p.m. Holy shit, holy shit. What the hell happened? I was out for, let's see, 5 hours? How am I not dead or something? Damn, where am I? I fell, I think. Down at least 2 stories. My back hurts like hell, but I can walk. And my flashlight works, luckily. These mag lights sure work miracles. Okay, I think I'm in some sort of boiler room. Yeah. God, my head hurts. I hope I don't have any major brain damage or something like that. Being out cold that long can't be good for me. 8:01 p.m. I can't find my way out of this basement. Everywhere I go, it seems like I keep circling back to this goddamn boiler room. I keep hearing like there's footsteps behind me too, but every time I look back, there's nothing. I'm a skeptic, so I don't believe in ghosts, but at this point, I'm a bit scared. 8:23 p.m. My phone died. It's not like there's any cell reception out here anyways, but now it's up to me to get out of this place. I'm done exploring. I just want to go home. 8:31 p.m. Ha! I think I found a new pathway. The halls in this basement are cramped, long, and full of twists and turns, but I think I can figure this out. What I'm doing is leaving a mark with my knife at each turn, so if I come back, I can figure out that I've been there and go the other way. I guess my brain still works well enough. 8:34 p.m. I just saw someone. Shit, oh my god. Maybe it was just my mind playing tricks on me. I'm still in the basement, but I'm in a part that I haven't seen yet. I'll keep you posted. 8:44 p.m. I'm not alone. 10:39 a.m. I'm alive. I don't know how, but I made it. I decided that it wasn't worth it to stop and talk every time something interesting happened. Let me fill you in on the last 14 hours of my life and the hell that I endured. I was still in that damn basement with nothing but my flashlight and my knife when I got a glimpse of exactly who or what was stalking me. This man, I think it was a man, was at least 7 feet tall and wore a middle-aged era plague doctor uniform. The beak, hat, and the coat, everything. I found my way out of the labyrinth after about an hour of searching, with that monster always stalking me. It could have taken me maybe 10 to 15 minutes to get out if I didn't have to deal with him following close behind. But everywhere I went, he was there, waiting for me. He never outright attacked me down there, but I could tell that his intentions were not good. After about an hour, I spotted a ladder. This has to be it, I thought as I ran towards it, my back still in immense pain. Every step up that ladder felt like I was being stabbed in the back, and as I looked down, I could see the doctor staring intently at me. That gave me the adrenaline that I needed to book it up the ladder and get to the hatch at the top. Unfortunately for me, the hatch was locked. No! I yelled as I began to smash it with my fist. Nothing. I pulled out my flashlight and I began to slam on the hatch. The doctor was getting closer, step by step. I began to hit the door harder until I heard a crack. I gave it my all on one last swing and the hatch swung open. I didn't hesitate to hastily rush up the last few rungs as I threw myself over the edge and I slammed the hatch shut. I had made it out of that maze of cold, dark hallways. I could breathe for a minute. My body soon recognized the fact that I had fallen 2 stories right on my back and the pain quickly set in. I've been hurt before, broken bones, ankle sprains, the usual stuff that happens in daily life. But this pain was like nothing I had ever felt. It hurt so bad I threw up there on the ground. I was sitting there, wallowing in my pain when I heard a noise. That noise made another rush of pain-relieving adrenaline flow through my body, as I quickly rose to my feet and began to scan my environment. It was cold. Really cold, actually. I felt a draft and I realized that there was no ceiling. I was in the central yard. It was probably 40 degrees out, maybe colder. Luckily, I had a sweatshirt on though. The noise I realized was just the wind howling on this cold October night. I turned on my flashlight to see a basketball hoop in front of me. The yard was big, but it was almost barren. A few basketball hoops and some bench presses were strewn across the concrete yard, but that was basically it. I took a minute to think of an escape plan. I couldn't climb onto the roof and walk across to the exit. Even if I could scale the 30-foot building, the risk of the roof collapsing and another fall was enough to deter me. I realized to get out of this place, I had to go back into that damn prison. I took a deep breath and I regretted it immediately, as I felt a sharp pain in my chest. Broken ribs, I thought. I began to make my way to the closest door to me, which was labeled solitary. The door opened without much effort, and I was soon inside the prison again. The dank smell of the rotting building filled my nose once again. I began to make my way down the dark hallway. this one looking even more decrepit than the parts of the prison I had already explored. The cells here were heavy steel doors with no windows, only a slit at the bottom for food. One of them was open, so even though I was in a hurry to get out of this place, the thought of stepping inside of one of these things was enticing. I made my way in, while making sure the door stayed open. I sat down on the bed and I took a moment to look myself over to see if I had any more injuries from my fall earlier. I noticed bruising all over my chest, and I had a nasty cut on my left arm that had since stopped bleeding. After that, I looked at my watch and I realized that it was now 1:12 a.m. I must have been in that basement for longer than I thought. I pointed my flashlight at the wall across from me and I made a disturbing discovery. There was writing all over this wall too. More raving rants about the doctor. Some quotes I could make out were, "The doctor does not heal. He harms. The doctor knows all. He sees all." And those were just a few. The writing on this wall was in blood this time. I stood up and I made a quick decision to leave that cell. I looked to my left towards the exit when I spotted the doctor just standing there, hand on the door. "You're sick," he uttered. The door swung shut with a loud slam. I quickly ran at the door and pounded on it with all my might. Locked. There was no way out. I kicked at the door until I felt like I was going to pass out. I spent a long time thinking if there was a way to get out. I threw my flashlight at the door. I did everything that I could to get out, but I just couldn't get that door open. I stood there for a while and really thought about my situation. I was at an abandoned prison in the middle of nowhere with a dead cell phone, and there was some plague doctor who locked me in a foul-smelling cell. I looked at the door again and I noticed the food slot. I made my way over to it and I pushed on it. Nothing. I decided to pull it and open it went. I immediately got to work and trying to get the lock on the handle of the door open. I stuck my arm through and I looked for the handle. Padlocked. I decided that maybe I could smash it open using my flashlight. I took a swing and I hit the padlock. I heard a metallic clang, but nothing more. I swung again and then again and again. Nothing. I pulled my arm out from the slit and I sat on the floor defeated. Was there truly no way out? At that moment, the realization that I might actually die truly set in. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. My life didn't flash before my eyes or anything like that. I just felt empty. It was a hopeless feeling, like I was in some bottomless pit. I put my hands in my pockets in defeat. But then I felt something that I had forgotten about. My pocket knife. I had an idea. I pulled open the food slot once more and I slid my hand through, knife in hand. When I felt my knife make contact with the padlock, I maneuvered it until I felt a keyhole. One thing you learn after exploring abandoned locations for 4 years is how to pick a lock. This was a bit different as I couldn't get both hands through the hole. But with some perseverance, I eventually was able to get the knife into the hole. Like a surgeon, I felt my way through the keyhole. It was not a time to be careful, so I did what any desperate man would do. I stabbed it until it broke. After a disgustingly long time of doing this, I heard a snap and felt the padlock loosen. I had done it. I pulled my arm back through the food slot and I let the knife go. My hands could do the rest. I grabbed the lock and I pushed it off the door. It made a loud metallic sound as it hit the floor. the sweetest sound that I had ever heard. I pulled my hand back once more and I looked at the door. I had done it. I pushed the door in and the rush of air pushed up against my face. I took my first step outside of that cell to see the dark hallway in front of me. I hastily made my way down the hallway, making sure to keep quiet so the doctor couldn't hear me if he was still around. I checked my watch and saw that the time was 3:53 a.m. I had been here for over 14 hours, and the weariness was setting in. I didn't have any food or water, and I was definitely injured. All I can think about at the time was how much of an idiot I was for stepping foot in this godforsaken place. Also, the fact that my head, back, and chest hurt like hell. As I rounded the corner, I get a feeling of being watched. I stopped and I scanned my environment. I was near the main holding area once again. Only a little more to go, I said to myself. I turned around and I saw nothing. But when I looked ahead once more, he was standing there, blocking my path. "Who the hell are you?" I shouted. He said nothing as he slowly stepped towards me. I backed away until I had about 20 feet between us before I took off down the hallway. Once again, I was headed deeper into the prison. After about 5 minutes of running, I passed by the armory from earlier. I thought that there was a small possibility there was something I could use to defend myself. The door was unlocked, which was lucky. I took 2 steps inside and was greeted by a beat-up old .45 pistol and some boxes of ammo that were sitting on the desk. "Jackpot," I whispered to myself as I began to load the gun. Now, I've shot guns before at ranges, but never in the use of self-defense. This was a massive step up for me. After all, I was going to use this on some 7-foot man for all I knew who wasn't even a man. I've said it before, but I'm a skeptic. But after what had happened to me at that point, I truly believe there was something supernatural about the doctor. I was able to find 2 magazines worth of ammo from that room, about 14 rounds. I made my way out of there, armed with my new best friend. I didn't spot the doctor anywhere, but I was sure to keep my head on a swivel as I made my way back down that hallway once more. I checked my watch to see that it was now 5:02 a.m. The sun would be up in about 2 hours. I hoped to be out of there before then, but I knew any encounters with the doctor would end up with me either dead or off schedule by another hour. After about 10 minutes of walking, I came upon a room that I hadn't noticed the last time I went down this hallway. A room labeled surgery. I didn't want to go into this room, but something drew me to it. Not curiosity. I couldn't have given 2 shits at this point. I just wanted to survive. It was like I wasn't in control of my body. I opened up the door and the scent of death punched me in the face. I was immediately overcome with nausea. But whatever was making me go into this room took over, and I made my way inside. In front of me laid a blood-soaked operating table, and sharp tools were scattered across the cracked tile floor. The thing that caught me by surprise the most was the doctor, as he stood on the other side of the table. We both stood there for what seemed like minutes, unmoving. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. It was like my feet were frozen to the ground. I couldn't raise my gun up to him. I couldn't speak at all. It was like I was in a complete trance physically, but mentally, I was all there. My body wasn't agreeing with my brain. Before I could regain control of my body, he stepped towards me and laid his hand on my shoulder. It was powerful and cold. It felt emotionless. Like he had no anger, but no sympathy either. Just then, I was able to break out of whatever trance I was in, and I quickly jumped back into the hallway. "What do you want from me? I just want to leave," I meekly stated as I aimed the gun at his chest.
"You're due for your evaluation,"
he finally uttered. "Evaluation? What are you talking about?" I questioned.
"Your disobedience has not gone unnoticed."
"Listen, I'm just an urban explorer. I'm not some inmate or something."
"You need your treatment. Now step back in the operating room and drop your firearm. It won't do you any good,"
he demanded. "Like hell," I yelled as I pulled the trigger. The gun recoiled back as a loud bang emanated from it. I saw the doctor step back and stumble. I kept my gun trained on him and I waited for him to react. And that's when he stepped towards me. I fired again and then again and again and again. I unloaded the whole magazine on him. He was on the ground by that point. Blood poured out of him and he lay there. But this blood was almost pure black. It looked more like oil than anything else. He began to shuffle back to his feet, and that was my cue to leave. I ran down the hall towards the main cell block once again. Once I passed through there, it was off towards the exit. My adrenaline pumped through my veins faster than it had all night. I was determined to get the hell out of that place by any means necessary. I could see the window where I had entered as I ran into the visitor center. I took one last look behind me and I saw nothing. I continued towards the exit and there he was. He was in between me and the window. I ran towards him and I ducked under before he could get me. I went headfirst out the window and took off towards the overgrown path back towards my car. About 20 minutes later, I arrived back to where my car was. I pulled the keys out of my pocket and I clicked the unlock button and threw myself into the car. I turned the key in the ignition and the car roared to life. No time to buckle. I just needed to get out of there. I pulled off out of the side of the road and I powered down the dark road ahead of me. About a minute into the ride, he appeared in the road. I pressed down on the pedal and I went full steam ahead towards him. If my bullets wouldn't keep him down, maybe my car would do. As my car made contact with him, he stuck his long arms out towards me and the car grounded to a halt. He was holding the front of my car like it was a cardboard box. The car wouldn't make it past him. I knew that I had to act fast, so I pulled the pistol out and I aimed at him. It wouldn't kill him, but it might weaken him enough for me to get out of here. I squeezed the trigger and nothing. I had forgotten to reload. Shit, I yelled as I reached into my pocket for the extra magazine that I had. I fiddled around with it and I loaded it into the gun and I looked back at the front. He was still just staring at me. I pulled the trigger and this time it fired towards him. The bullet shot through the windshield and into the doctor. He stumbled back and I floored it at him once again. The car rolled over him and I made my getaway down the road. I kept driving until the sun rose. By then, I was back in civilization. Currently, I'm writing this inside a Denny's on my laptop I keep in my back seat. My car is mostly fine, but I'll need a new windshield. As for my body and mind, it's a different story. Eating and drinking hurts, so I think I did some damage to my ribs last night. My back is also in a lot of pain, so that's not fun. I also think that maybe I have a concussion. I think I'm gonna take a break from urban exploration for a little while. After last night, I'm not sure what would possibly motivate me to ever go back to a place like that. I made a lot of dumb mistakes there too. But I wonder how much of it was actually me making the decisions, and how much was actually the control of the doctor. Anyways, I'm grateful that I'm alive. In the end, isn't that what matters? Maybe it's just the anxiety from last night's events, but I feel like this isn't over. I'll update this one more time when I need to. 5 p.m., October 30th. It's been about a week since the events of the prison, and I'm a mess. All my dreams have involved the doctor lately. Sometimes I'm in a field, sometimes I'm back in the prison, and one was even in my very own house. I've gotten very little sleep over the last few days. I'm still dealing with the injuries, but it's not that bad at this point. I still have the gun actually. I keep it in my closet under a textbook that I never use, so I guess I have some protection if I need it. The dreams have been rough, but they are the least of my concerns right now. I keep hearing voices. I keep seeing him. I don't know what to do anymore. If anybody reading this knows what to do, I would love to hear your answers. I can't deal with the doctor anymore. Every day it gets worse. I'm afraid he's going to do something really bad soon. I'll update you if there's anything to report. Until then, I bid you farewell. It's been about 2 weeks since I escaped the Wachusett maximum security prison. My encounter with the doctor has left me with recurring nightmares and with some mild psychological trauma. This has led to many sleepless nights and anxiety-filled days. I couldn't focus on school, work, or anything that I enjoyed really. Every time I stopped thinking about the doctor, he would reappear in some way, either in my dreams or out of the corner of my eye. Well, I received a message about 3 days ago. It was from a fellow Redditor who also had been to the prison. She had gone about 2 years ago, and while her experience was not as dangerous as mine, she encountered the doctor as well. Her name was Jessica, and she was a writer who had a website dedicated to urban exploration. She was in her late 20s and lived about 2 towns over. She had been exploring for about 10 years. She had traveled all around the country to the most famous abandoned locations, and had some pretty interesting stories. Jessica wanted to interview me on my experience at the prison. I agreed. Before I left, I looked in the mirror for the first time in a while, like really looked at myself. I looked terrible. The lack of sleep showed on my face and I looked pale. I would do anything at that point to just be rid of the nightmares and visions of the doctor. Anyways, we met up at a coffee shop downtown, and she got right to business. It was mostly questions about what I saw and what I had experienced. I told her the details of my adventure, and what had transpired since that night. "So you keep seeing the doctor?" she asked. "Yeah, constantly. I'm not sure if it's actually him or just my mind playing tricks on me," I said. "I never got anything like that after my time there. I mean, you obviously had a worse time than I did. Getting locked in a cell and falling 2 stories. The worst I got was a rolled ankle," she jokingly replied. "And don't forget the part where I was stuck in the basement," I said. "How could I?" she sarcastically responded. "So, did you have any theories on who the doctor is, and why he's haunting me?" I asked. "Not really. I mean, it's possible he's some ghost or some demon, but I'm not sure if you believe in those things anyways," she said. "Well, I'm a skeptic, but after that, I'm less skeptical. He did have some sort of control over me when I walked past the operating room, so really, he could be anything," I said. We talked for a little while and floated some more ideas around, but never came to any convincing conclusions. By the end of the meeting, I was left with more questions than answers. She said that she would do some poking around and call me when she had some more information. And well, yesterday afternoon she called me, and she said that she wanted me to meet her at her place, and she said that she had found the answer. I agreed and I drove to her apartment. When I got there, an elderly man was sitting on her couch. She introduced me to this man, who was named Dennis. Dennis was a former inmate of the Wachusett prison in the late 1960s. He was arrested for murder, but he was released after it turned out that he was misidentified. He was open enough to sit down and go over things, and he told us his story.
Well, I was in prison for 3 years. It was a hellhole. The conditions were awful and gangs ran rampant. I was never really into that stuff. I was tough, but I wasn't a killer. Anyway, in late 1968, some inmates were acting strange. They would have blank stares, talk to themselves, scream in the middle of the night, and randomly attack other inmates and the guards. I remember one guy straight up ripped out his cellmate's throat with his bare freaking hands. He paused and he breathed heavily. Sorry, just remembering stuff that isn't too pleasant. Take your time, Dennis. If you don't want to say any more, it's okay, Jessica said. It's fine. You kids need to hear this. Anyways, rumors started about why these guys were going crazy. Some said that it was a gas leak. Some said it was just the realization that they were locked up for life. All plausible. But one rumor started about some weird demon.
Demon? I questioned.
Yes, a demon. Some said that the prison is haunted by some old plague doctor. I have no clue why that could be true, considering this isn't where the old plagues even happened. But after a few weeks of these claims, more and more guys started seeing him.
Did you ever see him? Jessica asked.
Once, but that was the time where everybody saw him. Late one night, he somehow managed to open up a cell door, and he took a prisoner by the name of Paul Jackson. He was screaming and kicking the whole way down to the surgery room, and that night was the last night that we ever saw Paul.
Shit, I muttered.
That's where I was drawn to when I was there. That and solitary confinement. Solitary? Now that's in another whole story. The guys in there would bang on the doors all day, yelling about how he sees all and knows all, Dennis explained. And that's what was inside of the solitary cell that I was locked in, I said. More guys ended up in those cells during those last few years than any other time in the prison's history, Dennis explained.
So what was the surgery room for? I don't see why a prison would need an operating room, Jessica asked Dennis.
The room wasn't always for surgery. It was a supply room. But one day a sign appeared that said surgery, and the doctor began to show up around that time. The prison guards didn't have keys to the room, so they couldn't do anything about it, Dennis said.
What about the doctor? Did the guards believe in him? Jessica pressed.
I'm not sure. I was released only a few months after the doctor showed up. That's basically all I know. I've moved on from it.
Dennis sat up and headed towards the door.
I hope you guys figure out what you're looking for,
Dennis said as he opened the apartment door and closed it behind him, his footsteps trailing down the hallway until it was inaudible.
So what now? I asked Jessica.
I'm not sure.
Jessica said nervously. That's it then. I'm just gonna have to deal with the doctor. We both sat there in silence for a minute while thinking about what to do next. I needed to be rid of this curse that I had. What if we go back? Jessica asked. Go back? Like to the prison? No way, not a chance, I said. Think about it, it's worth a shot. You know what to expect, and I'll go with you. You can bring your gun. Jessica was firm on the decision, and I knew that I wasn't going to change her mind. I don't know, it's too dangerous. I should be going anyways, it's getting late. Yeah, I guess it is, Jessica said, looking at the clock. Just please, really consider this. I think this will be the answer that you're looking for. Jessica pleaded as I was heading out of the door. I'll consider it, okay? I said as I walked out of the door. After a short drive back to my house, I entirely went up to my room and I noticed that my windows were open. There was also a folded note on my desk in my room. I hesitantly reached for it and I opened it up. The note had a single phrase. You can't escape your fate. After mulling it over for a few days, I decided to go back to the prison. At my side was Jessica. Outside of the internet, she was the only person I had told about all the things that had happened to me. But now, it was time to end it. Along with Jessica, I had also brought the .45 handgun that I had found the last time that I was there. I made sure to stock up on ammo before this endeavor. It was the only thing that I could think of that could slow down the doctor. Part of me wondered if I could even kill the doctor, and if I could, would a handgun be enough? I pushed these thoughts aside as I could see the overgrown path that leads to the prison approaching us from the side of the dirt road. Are you sure you can do this? Jessica asked. It was good to have somebody with me this time around. I was shocked that she even believed me. But she said that she knew of the doctor and that's good enough for me. Yeah, I need to do this. It's getting worse and I see him everywhere now. School, work, my house. I just want him to be gone. I assured her. Okay, we're here. I say we get this over with. It was already getting dark, but with our high-powered flashlights, the dark wouldn't be much of an issue. About an hour and 15 minutes later, we arrived at our destination. The prison at night seemed even creepier than the last time I saw it. Jessica and I slowly made our way to the fence that I had slipped under last time. We entered through the broken window, and just like that, we were in the hands of the prison once again. Spooky, Jessica quietly said to herself. At least this time, I know what to expect, I told her. The plan to kill the doctor was simple. Once we spotted him, Jessica would blind him with her flashlight, while I unloaded a magazine into him. If that didn't do the trick, Jessica had a Molotov cocktail ready to be used to hopefully finish the job. And if that didn't kill him, then we were screwed. Jessica and I wandered the halls of the old prison for a while looking for him. Honestly, I wasn't sure that I wanted to kill him, as that would require confronting him. Something that I've been doing pretty well despite seeing him almost every day. I would usually just turn the other way or ignore him. But tonight, that was not an option. I was on a mission, and if I were to mess up, not only would I be in danger, but Jessica could be in serious danger as well. Jessica and I had become acquaintances over the last week. We'd shared more than just our common goal of defeating the doctor. She was a really nice person, actually. And I know somebody will ask if I think of her in a romantic way, but she's 10 years older than me, so it would be a bit odd. Anyway, enough about my weird thoughts and back to the story at hand. After about half an hour of wandering around the dark, decrepit hallways of the prison, we made our way into the courtyard. I know that this had an entrance to the basement, the first area that I had encountered the doctor in. I wondered if that was where possibly he stayed until he decided to mess with me. Jessica suggested that we take a look down there, but I wasn't so sure. I don't think that's a good idea. It's a labyrinth down there. We could easily get lost. I was for hours until I found this exit by pure luck, I said. Jessica agreed with me. I think she hadn't realized the pure scale of this place yet, but she seemed to trust me on stuff like this. We made our way back into the prison. This time, I was careful not to go the same route that I'd used last time, in order to avoid the solitary confinement cells. After walking in the main halls for a while, I noticed movement about 30 yards in front of us. I think we found him, I whispered to Jessica. You saw him? Jess asked nervously. Yeah, get ready to shine your light, I instructed her. At that moment, something unexpected happened. Jessica began to hyperventilate and she dropped her flashlight. Jess, are you okay? She lost all emotion suddenly, and she began to walk towards him. What the hell are you doing? I yelled as she sped up her pace, and before I knew it, she was gone. I was all alone. Jess seemed to be under some sort of mind control. I picked up her flashlight and I ran towards her, yelling her name. Jessica, where are you? Don't go towards him. My pleas were met with a deafening silence, and both her and the doctor were nowhere to be seen. I began to panic. Shit, I muttered to myself as horrible possibilities ran through my mind. She was gone and so was he. Where would he possibly bring her? A light bulb seemingly illuminated over my head as I figured it out. Surgery, I proudly said out loud, before really registering what that could mean for her. I promptly began running towards the operating room. Unfortunately, I still didn't have a great idea of the place as I hurriedly ran down the hallways, turn after turn at corner after corner. It seems like I could never find the room. But after what felt like an eternity, I found the room labeled surgery. I put my hand on the door and I attempted to open it. Padlocked shut. Without thinking about it, I aimed my gun at the lock and I pulled the trigger. That worked as the bullet pierced through the steel lock and it fell to the floor. I kicked open the door to see the doctor, standing over an operating table with an unconscious Jessica laying on it. He quickly looked at me and began to approach. I didn't hesitate to open fire. I unloaded 6 rounds into his chest as he fell backwards. This seemed to break whatever trance Jessica was in as she quickly sat up from the operating table. What the hell? Where am I? She shouted while holding her abdomen, which I could see was bleeding. Jessica, the Molotov, use it! I demanded as I pointed at the bottle that was lying on the floor. She reached for it, but fell off the operating table with a sickening thud. She was hurt badly. I moved towards her, and I pulled her out of the room along with the firebomb. I used the lighter in my pocket to light up the rag sticking at the end of the glass bottle, and I proceeded to chuck it at the doctor, who was slowly getting back to his feet. The room erupted in flames as the doctor was engulfed by the inferno. Jessica was lying on the floor as I realized what he had done to her. He had cut her midsection open. It wasn't very deep, but it was bleeding quite heavily. I took off my sweatshirt and I wrapped it around her waist to help stop the blood loss. But this wouldn't fix her. I had to get her out of here into a hospital. Luckily, she was able to walk and we began to make our way towards the exit, which was not far. By the time we got there, she was looking extremely pale. I helped her through the window and then I proceeded to climb out of it myself. The walk back was maddening. Jessica was in serious pain and I could tell that she was fading. It seemed like the longer that we walked, the closer she was to collapsing. The blood had completely stained my light gray sweatshirt, covering it in a deep crimson red. I was still worried about the doctor. Even though he was lit up, I wasn't sure if that was enough. Well, my questions were answered when the earth began to shake below our feet. Jessica crashed to the ground, and I stumbled back a few feet as I looked in front of us. A crack emerged about 10 yards in front of us, as an orange glow illuminated from it. I quickly realized what I was looking at. The doctor pulled himself out from under the ground in a blaze. He was much taller, maybe even 20 feet tall. He reminded me of that effigy they burn at Burning Man, except this one was hell-bent on killing us. And now at this point, the odds were stacked against us. Jessica was bleeding on the ground and I was face to face with a 20-foot burning monster. I was just about ready to give up and admit defeat, but I looked past the approaching figure. About 50 yards away was the car. A plan popped into my head, and it was risky, but if it worked, this nightmare may be over. I quickly booked it to the car, having to run almost right past the doctor. As I did, his hand latched onto my shirt. I was viciously pulled into the air, and I was about face to face with my enemy. The heat from the fire was excruciating, but the adrenaline helped me push the pain aside as I looked into the cracked lenses of the mask.
Did you really think that some fire was enough to stop me?
He boomed in a much deeper and intimidating voice.
I have existed for centuries and have cleansed countless societies. You are simply a small nuisance.
While he was busy patting himself on the back, I pulled out my knife and I jammed it directly in his left eye. This caused his hand to let go of me and I plummeted to the ground. I landed awkwardly on my left leg as I hit the surface, but I was too busy to notice it. I limped as fast as I could to the car as the doctor stumbled backwards into a tree. He made a noise that I can only describe as a large hellhound growling. I made it to my car and I threw myself inside. My plan was simple. I had a second Molotov in the back seat that I had forgotten to grab on my way inside of the prison. I was going to drive the car into him, roll out and then throw the firebomb at the car, hopefully igniting it in the process and leading to an explosion. The doctor was gaining on me as I turned the keys in the ignition. I took a deep breath and I floored it at the bastard. I jumped out before the car made contact with him and rolled about 20 feet left of the car. This knocked the wind out of me along with a couple of broken bones. When I finally looked up, the car was on top of the doctor. He was struggling to lift it. Now was my chance. I slowly got to my feet and I realized my mistake. The bottle had shattered all over me. I was covered in bits of glass and gasoline. I had one last idea. I pulled out my lighter as I slowly walked towards the car. The doctor had nearly gotten the car off of him. I had to be smart about this. I was covered in gasoline as well, and getting too close would result in me going up in flames. I decided to take off my shirt and light it up. It immediately burst into flames as I chucked it at the car. The shirt, combined with the fire that was already on the doctor, caused the car to ignite in flames. This led to a massive explosion that enveloped the car and the doctor. After the fireball cleared, the car was a burnt metal husk, and the doctor was gone. I laid on the ground as the feeling of my injury set in. Pain shot up my body as the broken bones and cuts made their presence known. But despite this, I shot to my feet to check on Jessica. I limped towards where she had passed out, and she was there. She didn't move as I made my way towards her. I fell to my knees next to her as I checked her pulse. In what I can only describe as the longest 2 seconds of my life, I waited to feel a pulse pass through her wrist. When I finally felt one, I breathed a sigh of relief. "Jessica, Jess," I asked. It took her a moment to open her eyes. "What happened?" "I did it. He's gone." "You did it? He's really gone," she repeated back to me. "Yeah, listen, I gotta get you to a hospital. I'll carry you there." "What about the car?" "The car is gone. I used it to kill him." "You idiot, my wallet was in there." She began to laugh, but quickly stopped as she winced in pain. I looked at her abdomen and saw that it was still bleeding. She didn't have long, but she was in good spirits. As I was helping her to her feet, a siren cried in the distance. The red and blue lights of a police cruiser illuminated the clearing as an officer stepped out of his car. "1141 on Cedar Road, code 2, he said into his radio as he quickly made his way towards me. Another officer stepped out of the car and also made his way over. "Is there anybody seriously hurt?" the first officer asked. "She has a huge cut on her abdomen. It's been bleeding for a while," I told the officer as he tended to her. The next few hours were a blur. We were both rushed to a local hospital, and Jessica was put into extensive care. Her condition was critical but stable. I was x-rayed and my left leg was broken, along with other minor injuries all over my body. I was interrogated and claimed that it was a massive car accident. I knew if I told them that I drove my car into a 20-foot-tall plague doctor, it wouldn't have gone over well. Jessica also said there was a car accident, and so I was off the hook. I had a lot of time to process that night before I sat down to write this. It's been about a week since these events took place. There have been no signs of the doctor, and I think that he's truly dead this time. I also have some theories about the doctor. I believe that he has been infecting society since the era of the bubonic plague. In the 1980s, a disease that affected the immune system of anybody who caught it ravaged the world. We know this as HIV or AIDS. Well, in the early 1970s, a disease that had all these symptoms was found in the inmates of the Wachusett prison, including Dennis. He's been lucky enough to still be alive today, but he knows of 4 other men who caught it while in the prison. 2 of them happen to be known for taking advantage of drop soap. I think that this doctor may have had a hand in the spread of one of the most damaging epidemics of recent history. It's possible that he was also responsible for other epidemics, such as the Spanish flu. I think this is where I'll end this letter. I'm officially retired from urban exploration. If there is ever anything else to this story, I'll be sure to update you guys as soon as I can.